Bianca Morales thought she was trading skyscrapers for barns, just a 2-week favor. But falling for a quiet farmer and his stubborn pig wasn't in her planner. Can a city girl rewrite her future from the ground up? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun streamed through Bianca Morales' apartment window as she hurriedly stuffed clothes into her suitcase. At 25, she had never imagined she'd be packing for a stay on a farm of all places. Her Manhattan apartment, filled with books and stylish furniture, was her sanctuary, a far cry from the mud and animals that awaited her. "I can't believe I let Sophia talk me into this," Bianca muttered, holding up a pair of expensive heels before tossing them back into her closet. Those wouldn't do her any good where she was headed. Her phone rang, and Sophia's name flashed on the screen. Bianca sighed and answered. "Please tell me you haven't changed your mind," Sophia said, the worry evident in her voice. "I really don't have anyone else to ask, Bianca." "I'm packing right now," Bianca assured her cousin. "But I still don't understand why you can't just hire someone who actually knows what they're doing. I've never even had a houseplant," Sophia laughed, then winced. Bianca could picture her cousin lying in bed with her leg propped up in a cast. "The farm's owner is very particular about who works there," Sophia explained. "Besides, it's only for 2 weeks until I can at least hobble around on crutches. The doctor says I need to stay completely off this leg after the surgery." Bianca zipped up her suitcase, already regretting her decision. "And you're sure this Caleb person knows I'm coming? That I'm completely clueless about farm life?" Yes, he knows. He's not exactly thrilled, but he's desperate for help. Just follow the instructions I emailed you, and you'll be fine." 2 hours later, Bianca was in her car, the GPS directing her away from the familiar city streets toward the countryside. As skyscrapers gave way to trees and open fields, a knot formed in her stomach. "What have I gotten myself into?" she whispered. When she finally turned onto the gravel road leading to Hollow Creek Farm, Bianca's jaw dropped. It wasn't the rundown place she'd imagined. The white farmhouse stood proud against the blue sky, surrounded by well-kept fences and green pastures. It looked like something from a magazine, charming, picturesque, and completely intimidating. As she parked her car, the peaceful scene suddenly erupted into chaos. A small pink pig darted across the yard, chasing a frantic rooster. Chickens scattered in all directions, and one boldly approached her car, eyeing it with suspicion. Bianca stepped out cautiously, designer sneakers hitting the gravel. The chicken immediately redirected its attention to her suitcase when she set it down. "Shoo!" she tried, waving her hands ineffectively. That's when she noticed him. A tall man stood by the barn entrance, arms crossed over his chest, watching the scene unfold with the faintest hint of amusement. He wore a plaid shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing tanned forearms, worn jeans, and muddy boots. His face, partially shadowed by a baseball cap, held the hint of a smirk. "You the replacement?" he called out. Bianca pushed her sunglasses up into her dark hair and sighed. "Depends," she replied. "Is it too late to run?" A deep chuckle escaped him as he walked toward her. Up close, she could see his eyes were a warm brown, crinkled at the corners from years of squinting in the sun. "Caleb Ford," he said, extending a hand. "Welcome to Hollow Creek." "Bianca Morales," she replied, shaking his hand and trying not to notice how firm his grip was, or how her perfectly manicured nails contrasted against his calloused palm. The chicken pecked at her suitcase again, and she jumped back. "That's just Henrietta," Caleb said. "She's harmless, curious about new things." "Well, I'm definitely new," Bianca said. "And completely clueless, as I'm sure Sophia told you." Caleb nodded, his expression unreadable. "She mentioned you're a city girl, publishing, right?" "Editorial assistant," Bianca confirmed. "Books are more my speed than whatever that is." She pointed to the pig, which was now rooting around in a flower bed. "That's Wilbur, he's an escape artist." Caleb whistled, and the pig looked up, its snout covered in dirt. "Come on, buddy, back to your pen." To Bianca's amazement, the pig trotted obediently toward Caleb, who patted its head before opening a gate to let it into an enclosure. "Do they all listen to you like that?" she asked. "Most days when they're in the mood." He turned to face her. "Look, I appreciate you coming to help, but This isn't a petting zoo. It's a working farm. The animals need feeding, the stalls need cleaning, and the garden needs tending. Think you can handle that?" His directness caught her off guard. "I promised Sophia I'd try. I can follow instructions." Caleb nodded once. "That's a start. Let's get you settled and then I'll show you around." The farmhouse interior was surprisingly cozy. Wooden floors, comfortable furniture, and windows that let in plenty of light. Caleb showed her to a bedroom on the first floor. "Sophia, usually, stays here when she's helping out," he explained. "Bathrooms across the hall, kitchen's always open. I'm usually up by 5. 5, Bianca repeated, horrified. "In the morning." That hint of a smile appeared again. "That's how farms work, City. Girl, animals don't care about sleeping in." After Caleb left her to unpack, Bianca sat on the edge of the bed, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. She had just taken off her shoes when she heard a commotion outside. Looking through the window, she saw Caleb chasing after several goats that had somehow gotten out of their pen. Slipping her shoes back on, she rushed outside to help, though she had no idea what to do. "What can I do?" she called. "Block that gap in the fence." Caleb pointed while herding the goats back. Bianca ran to where he indicated, spreading her arms wide as if she were playing defense in basketball. A goat charged toward her, and she squealed, but held her ground. The animal veered away at the last moment. "Good job," Caleb said once all the goats were secured. "You didn't run." "I was too scared to move," she admitted. "Fear's not always a bad thing, keeps you alert." He bent down to fix the broken fence section. "Dinner's at 6 if you're hungry. Nothing fancy." Dinner turned out to be homemade stew that smelled delicious. They ate at the kitchen table, an awkward silence between them. "So," Bianca said finally, "how long have you owned this place?" 5 years, Caleb replied. "It was my grandfather's before that." "It's beautiful." He looked up, seeming surprised by the compliment. "Thanks, it's a lot of work, but worth it. Did you always want to be a farmer?" Caleb set his spoon down. "Not always. I studied business in college. Worked in the city for a while." This revelation surprised her. "Really? What made you come back?" Something in his expression closed off. "Family, roots. The city wasn't for me." Bianca sensed there was more to the story but didn't push. "Well, the city's definitely for me. I can't imagine living anywhere." "Else? Then why are you here?" His direct question wasn't accusatory, just curious, "Because Sophia needed me. And we've always been there for each other." She smiled, remembering. "When we were kids, she punched a boy who pulled my pigtails. I helped her pass English so she could graduate. That's what family does." Caleb nodded, a new respect in his eyes. "Family's important." After dinner, Caleb wrote out a schedule for the next day. "We'll start with feeding the chickens," he said. "Then the goats and Wilbur. The cows need milking every morning." "Milking?" Bianca's eyes widened. "I don't know how to milk a cow." "I'll teach you." He handed her the schedule. "Wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. Those fancy jeans won't last a day here." Bianca glanced down at her designer outfit and winced. Noted. That night, lying in the unfamiliar bed, Bianca listened to the sounds of the country, so different from her apartment's city noises. No car horns or sirens, just crickets and the occasional lowing of a cow. She checked her phone. No service. The Wi-Fi Caleb had given her the password to was painfully slow. 2 weeks, she whispered to herself. "I can survive anything for 2 weeks." The next morning arrived far too early. A rooster crowed and Bianca groaned, pulling the pillow over her head. Her phone showed 4:55 a.m. She considered going back to sleep, but remembered Caleb's words. Animals don't care about sleeping in. Dragging herself out of bed, she put on the most casual clothes she'd packed, jeans that were still too nice for farm work and a plain t-shirt. She pulled her hair into a ponytail and skipped her usual makeup routine. In the kitchen, Caleb was already drinking coffee. He raised an eyebrow at her appearance but said nothing, simply handing her a mug. "Ready for your first day, city girl?" "As I'll ever be," she replied, taking a grateful sip. The chicken coop was their first stop. Caleb demonstrated how to scatter feed and collect eggs. The chickens fluttered around Bianca's feet, making her nervous. "They're not going to attack you," Caleb assured her, amused. "Just don't chase them." "Why would I chase them?" she asked, then shrieked as a chicken flapped near her face. Caleb burst out laughing, a rich sound that transformed his usually serious expression. "They sense fear," he said, gently scooping up a chicken to show her. "See? Harmless." Bianca tentatively reached out to touch the hen's feathers. "She's softer than I expected." Next came the goats, who pushed and shoved for their food. One nibbled on Bianca's shirt while another head-butted her thigh. "They're like furry toddlers," she complained. "Smart too," Caleb agreed. "They'll test you, don't let them get away with anything." The cows were intimidating with their size, but Caleb patiently showed her how to milk them. His hands moved with practiced ease, creating a rhythmic sound. As milk hit the bucket, "Your turn," he said, moving aside. Bianca sat on the small stool, positioning her hands as he'd shown her. Nothing happened. "You're too gentle," Caleb said. He stood behind her, his arms reaching around to cover her hands. With his like this, his chest pressed against her back as he guided her hands, and Bianca felt her cheeks warm at the closeness. Under his guidance, milk began to flow into the bucket. "I'm doing it," she exclaimed. "You're a natural," he said, stepping back, but the warmth of his hands lingered on hers. By midday, Bianca was exhausted and filthy. Her hair had escaped its ponytail, her jeans were mud-streaked, and she'd stepped in something she preferred not to identify. Yet, as she watched Caleb moving confidently around the farm, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. She was trying. Something completely new and hadn't run away screaming. Yet after lunch, Caleb showed her the vegetable garden. "We need to harvest these tomatoes," he explained. "They're ready." Bianca followed his instructions, carefully picking the ripe ones and placing them in a basket. The sun beat down on her back, and sweat trickled between her shoulder blades, but there was something satisfying about the work. "These are incredible," she said, holding up a perfectly red tomato. "The ones at the grocery store never looked this good." "That's because these are grown with care, not chemicals," Caleb replied. "Everything tastes better when you grow it yourself." As the days passed, Bianca developed a routine. She still made countless mistakes, like the time she left a gate unlatched and 3 goats escaped, or when she screamed so loudly at a spider in the barn that she spooked the horses. But Caleb was surprisingly patient. "Everyone starts somewhere," he said, after she accidentally knocked over a feeding bucket and burst into tears from frustration. "I'm sorry," she sniffled, trying to scoop up the spilled grain. "I'm not cut out for this." "You're doing better than you think," Caleb said, kneeling beside her to help. His eyes met hers, and for a moment something passed between them, a connection that made her heart flutter. In the evenings they fell into a comfortable pattern. Caleb would cook, he was surprisingly good at it, and Bianca would wash dishes. They talked about their lives, Bianca's dream of becoming an editor, Caleb's plans for expanding the farm's organic produce section. One night, after a particularly challenging day where everything seemed to go wrong, Bianca sat on the porch steps staring at the sunset. Caleb joined her, offering a glass of homemade lemonade. "Rough day?" he asked. "I don't belong here," she admitted. "I'm trying, but I'm just not good at this." Caleb was quiet for a moment. "You know, when I first came back to the farm after years away, I was terrible too. Grandfather had to reteach me everything." "Really?" Bianca looked at him skeptically. "You seem so natural at it all." "Practice," he said. "And patience." He hesitated. "Something I haven't always had enough of." "What do you mean?" Caleb stared into the distance. "I was engaged once to a woman who loved the idea of country living but hated the reality of it. She tried for a while, then left." Bianca felt a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry," he shrugged. "It was for the best. She wasn't happy here, and I couldn't be happy anywhere else." His eyes met hers. "That's why I've been impressed with you. You complain, but you don't quit." "I promised Sophia," Bianca said simply. "It's more than that. You care? I've seen you talking to the cows like they're your friends," Bianca blushed. "They're good listeners." Caleb laughed, and Bianca realized how much she'd come to enjoy that sound, how his whole face transformed when he smiled, the way his eyes crinkled and a dimple appeared in his right cheek. "What?" he asked, noticing her stare. "Nothing," she said quickly. just thinking that I might actually miss this place when I go back to the city. Something flickered in Caleb's eyes. Disappointment, perhaps. But it vanished so quickly, she thought she might have imagined it. The city, he echoed. Right. That's where you belong. As she prepared for bed that night, Bianca wondered why his words left her feeling hollow. Of course she belonged in the city. That was her life. Busy streets, book launches, take-out dinners. Not muddy boots and early mornings and animals that knew her voice, and certainly not quiet farmers with guarded hearts and rare, beautiful smiles. The next morning, while feeding the goats, Bianca's phone finally caught enough signal to download her emails. Among them was a message from her boss, asking when she'd return and mentioning an exciting new project. The familiar thrill of anticipation she usually felt was strangely muted. She looked around at the farm, at the goats pushing against her legs, at the fields stretching to the horizon, at Caleb fixing a tractor in the distance. For the first time, she wondered if 2 weeks might not be enough time after all, and that thought scared her more than any chicken ever could. 1 week into her stay at Hollow Creek Farm, Bianca woke up before the rooster crowed. She lay in bed for a moment, surprised at herself. A week ago, she'd been dreading the early mornings. Now she found herself looking forward to the day ahead. She dressed quickly in jeans and a flannel shirt she'd bought at the local store, clothes far more practical than anything she'd packed. Her once perfect manicure was chipped, her hands rougher than they'd ever been, but she felt a strange pride in these small changes. In the kitchen, she started the coffee, knowing Caleb would be in soon. They'd fallen into an easy rhythm, sharing meals and work, their initial awkwardness fading into comfortable companionship. The screen door creaked, and Caleb stepped in, looking surprised to see her up. "Morning," she said, handing him a mug of coffee. "You're up early," he observed, taking the mug. Their fingers brushed, sending a now familiar flutter through her stomach. "Couldn't sleep?" "Actually, I was thinking about trying to milk Bessie on my own today," Bianca admitted. "I think I'm getting the hang of it." Caleb's eyebrows rose. "Look at you, city girl, getting ambitious." His teasing no longer carried any bite. If anything, there was warmth in the way he said "city girl" now, almost like a term of endearment. After breakfast, they headed to the barn. Bianca approached. Bessie, with newfound confidence, speaking soothingly to the cow as she positioned the stool and bucket. "That's it," Caleb encouraged, leaning against a post to watch. "Remember to keep your grip firm, but gentle." To her delight, the milk flowed steadily into the bucket. She looked up at Caleb with a triumphant smile. "I'm doing it," his eyes crinkled with pride. Not bad for someone who thought cows were scary a week ago. "They're still a little scary," she admitted. "But I'm learning that most things aren't. As frightening once you get to know them." Something in her tone made Caleb's expression soften. "Most things," he agreed quietly. Later that morning, dark clouds rolled in, bringing a sudden summer storm. Caleb and Bianca rushed to secure the animals and equipment, rain soaking them to the skin. "The hay," Caleb shouted over the downpour, pointing to the uncovered bales in the field. "We need to get it into the barn." They worked together, loading hay onto the small tractor trailer. The rain made everything slippery, and as Bianca reached for a bale, her foot slid in the mud. She tumbled down, landing hard. Caleb was at her side in an instant. "Are you okay?" Bianca tried to stand, but winced when she put weight on her ankle. "I think I twisted it." Without hesitation, Caleb scooped her up in his arms. She clutched his shoulders, startled by the sudden closeness. "I can walk," she protested weakly. "Not in this mud, you can't," he replied, carrying her toward the house. In the farmhouse, he gently set her on the couch and knelt to examine her ankle. His touch was tender as he carefully removed her muddy boot. "It's not broken," he said after pressing gently around the joint, "but it's starting to swell. Let me get some ice." When he returned with an ice pack and a towel, Bianca was shivering in her wet clothes. "You need to get changed," he said, concern etched on his face. "Can you make it to your room if I help you?" With his support, Bianca hobbled to her bedroom, where she changed into dry clothes. When she emerged, she found Caleb had also changed and was building a fire in the living room fireplace. "The power's out," he explained, striking a match to the kindling. Storm knocked. Down a line somewhere. Bianca settled on the couch, her ankle propped up on a pillow. The ice pack was numbing the pain, and the flickering firelight cast a warm glow around the room. "I'm sorry about the hay," she said, feeling guilty. Caleb shook his head. "Don't worry about the hay. I'm just glad you weren't seriously hurt." He sat beside her on the couch. "You've been working hard this week. Too hard, maybe." "I wanted to prove I could do it," she admitted. "That I wasn't just a useless city girl." "You were never useless," Caleb said softly. "Different, yes, but never useless." Their eyes met in the firelight, and Bianca felt her heart speed up. There was something in Caleb's gaze that hadn't been there before, a warmth, an openness that made her breath catch. The moment was interrupted by a loud crash outside. Caleb jumped up. "That sounded like it came from the barn." "Go," Bianca urged. "I'll be fine." He hesitated. "You sure?" "Positive. The animals need you." Caleb grabbed a raincoat and flashlight, disappearing into the storm. Bianca waited anxiously, watching the minutes tick by on her phone. When he finally returned, he was soaked again and looking grim. "Part of the barn roof came down," he reported, running a hand through his wet hair. "Right over the storage area. Feed's ruined and there's water damage to some equipment." "Oh no," Bianca said. "Can I help?" "Not with that ankle. Besides, there's not much to do tonight." He sighed heavily. "I'll have to assess the damage in the morning and call insurance." "Will it be covered?" Caleb's mouth tightened. "Some of it. The barn's old, though. I've been meaning to reinforce that section." He dropped into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. "It's always something on a farm. Just when you think you're ahead, nature reminds you who's really in charge." Bianca studied him in the firelight. For the first time, she glimpsed the weight he carried, the constant responsibility of the farm, the animals, the land. "You do all this alone," she said softly. "Every day?" He shrugged. "Most days. Sophia helps when she can. But mostly, it's just you." Caleb met her eyes. "It's the life I chose." "Do you ever regret it? Coming back here instead of staying in the city?" He was quiet for a long moment. "No," he finally said. "This land, it's part of me. Always has been." He looked down at his calloused hands. "But sometimes, I do wonder what it would be like to share it with someone. Someone who loved. Pay as much as I do." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Bianca felt a tug in her chest, an unexpected longing for something she'd never wanted before. The storm raged through the night. Without electricity, they ate a simple dinner by candlelight, then played cards to pass the time. Bianca discovered that Caleb had a competitive streak that matched her own, and they bantered back and forth, each victory celebrated with growing enthusiasm. "I can't believe you're beating me at poker," Caleb complained good-naturedly after Bianca won her third. "Hand in a row." "I told you I used to play with my dad every Sunday," she reminded him, gathering the cards to shuffle again. "He's a retired math teacher who counts cards. I learned from the best." "Your family sounds nice," Caleb said. "You're close to them?" Bianca nodded. "Mom, Dad, and my younger brother, they're all back in the city." She dealt the cards. "What about your family?" A shadow crossed Caleb's face. "My parents died in a car accident when I was in college. That's when Grandpa asked me to consider taking over the farm someday." He picked up his cards. "He raised me after that, taught me everything I know about farming." "I'm sorry about your parents," Bianca said gently. "Your grandfather sounds like a wonderful man." "He was," Caleb agreed, a soft smile returning. "Stubborn as a mule, but with the biggest heart. He'd have liked you." "Really?" "Even though I screamed at a chicken," Caleb laughed, "especially because of that. He loved people who were real, who didn't pretend to be something they weren't." The power returned the next morning, along with clear skies. Bianca's ankle was still sore, but she insisted on helping with the indoor chores, while Caleb assessed the barn damage. By afternoon, he had contractors on site, discussing repairs. Bianca made lunch for everyone, surprising herself with how comfortably. She moved around the farmhouse kitchen now. When the workers left, Caleb found her on the porch, her ankle propped up on a chair. "The repairs will take about a week," he told her, sitting beside her. "Insurance will cover most of it." "That's good news," she said. "Will it affect the animals?" "We'll need to move some things around, but they'll be fine." He studied her. "You're good with them now, even Wilbur minds you." Bianca smiled. "He just needs to be talked to like he matters." "Like we all do," Caleb said quietly. Their eyes met, and this time neither looked away. Bianca felt herself leaning slightly toward him, drawn by something she couldn't name. The moment was broken by the sound of a car coming up the driveway. They both turned to see a sleek SUV approaching. "Are you expecting someone?" Bianca asked. Caleb frowned. "No." The SUV parked, and a woman stepped out, tall, blonde, and immaculately dressed in what Bianca recognized as expensive designer clothes. She walked toward the porch with confident strides. "Caleb," she called, her voice bright. "Surprise!" Bianca felt Caleb stiffen beside her. "Rebecca," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "This is unexpected." The woman, Rebecca, climbed the porch steps, her gaze moving between Caleb and Bianca with obvious curiosity. "I was in town visiting my parents and thought I'd drop by." Her eyes lingered on Bianca. "I didn't realize you had company." "This is Bianca," Caleb said. "She's helping out while Sophia recovers from surgery." Rebecca's smile didn't reach her eyes. "How nice. I'm Rebecca Wilson." She extended a manicured hand to Bianca. "Caleb and I used to be engaged." Bianca felt a cold shock at the words. This was the woman who had left Caleb, who had decided farm life wasn't for her. She shook Rebecca's hand. "Nice to meet you." An awkward silence fell until Caleb cleared his throat. "Would you like to come in for coffee, Rebecca?" "I'd love to," she replied, following him inside. Bianca remained on the porch, suddenly feeling out of place. She could hear their voices drifting through the open window. Rebecca's animated chatter about her life in the city, her new job at a marketing firm, the mutual friends she'd recently seen. Eventually, Bianca made her way inside, moving slowly, with her sore ankle. In the kitchen, Rebecca was perched elegantly on a chair while Caleb leaned against the counter, his expression unreadable. "Bianca," Rebecca said, her smile too bright. "Caleb was just telling me about the storm damage. How awful." "Yes, it was pretty bad," Bianca agreed, uncomfortably aware of her worn jeans and messy ponytail next to Rebecca's polished appearance. "I hear you work in publishing," Rebecca continued. "In the city. You must be counting the days until you can get back to civilization." There was an edge to her words that made Bianca bristle. "Actually, I've enjoyed my time here." Rebecca looked skeptical. "Really? The dirt, the smells, the endless chores? That's not what I'd expect from someone with your background." "It grows on you," Bianca said simply. Caleb was watching her, something soft in his expression. "Bianca's a natural with the animals," he said. "Even Wilbur listens to her." Rebecca laughed. "That pig. He was always escaping when I lived here." She turned to Bianca. "Did Caleb tell you I tried the farm life for a while? It didn't take." "He mentioned it," Bianca said carefully. "Some people are just made for the city," Rebecca said with a shrug. "Like you and me." She checked her watch. "I should get going, dinner plans in town." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "It was lovely to meet you, Bianca." Caleb walked her to her car. Through the window, Bianca watched them talk, Rebecca touching Caleb's arm as she spoke. Something uncomfortable twisted in Bianca's chest. When Caleb returned, his expression was thoughtful. "She seems nice," Bianca offered, not meaning it at all. "She's Rebecca," Caleb said, as if that explained everything. He busied himself washing coffee cups. "She's very beautiful," Bianca pressed, not sure why she was torturing herself. "Yes." Caleb dried a cup slowly. "But beauty isn't everything." That evening, they ate dinner mostly in silence, the easy camaraderie of the previous night replaced by an inexplicable tension. "She wants to get back together," Caleb said suddenly, setting down his fork. Bianca nearly choked on her water. "What?" "Rebecca. That's why she came by, to see if there was still something between us." Bianca's heart sank. "Oh. And is there?" Caleb looked directly at her. No, there isn't. Relief washed over her, followed immediately by confusion at the intensity of her reaction. Why should she care about Caleb's love life? She'd be gone in a week, back to her real life in the city. I loved her once, Caleb continued, or thought I did, but we wanted different things. The city versus the farm, Bianca said. It was more than that. Caleb pushed his plate away. She wanted the idea of country living, the Instagram version, not the reality. When things got hard, when the work seemed endless and the rewards too small, she left. I can understand that, Bianca said carefully. This life isn't for everyone. No, it's not. Caleb's eyes held hers. But the right person doesn't run when things get difficult. They stay, they try, like you've been doing. Bianca felt her cheeks warm. I promised Sophia. It's more than that, Caleb interrupted. You care. About the animals. About doing things right. About... He hesitated. About the people here. The weight of his words hung between them. Bianca's heart raced as she realized what he was really saying and what she was feeling. Caleb, she began, not sure what would follow. His phone rang, breaking the moment. He answered it, his expression changing to concern as he listened. I'll be right there, he said, hanging up. That was Bill Thompson from the next farm over. One of his cows is having trouble calving. He needs help. Go, Bianca said. I'll clean up here. Caleb hesitated. We should finish this conversation. It'll keep, she assured him, though her heart was pounding. The cow can't wait. After he left, Bianca moved around the kitchen, washing dishes and replaying their conversation in her mind. What was happening between them? And more importantly, what did she want to happen? A week ago, the answer would have been simple. Nothing. She was a city girl, bound for New York as soon as Sophia could return. Her life was there. Her job, her family, her future. But now, as she looked around the farmhouse that had somehow begun to feel like home, she wasn't so sure. That night, unable to sleep, Bianca stepped outside onto the porch. The sky was clear. Stars scattered like diamonds across the darkness, so many more than she could ever see in the city. The sound of a vehicle approaching made her turn. Caleb's truck pulled up and he stepped out, looking tired but satisfied. How did it go? She called. He looked up, surprised to see her. Twin calves, both healthy. Mama's doing fine. He climbed the porch steps. What are you doing up so late? Couldn't sleep, she admitted. Too many thoughts. Caleb nodded as if he understood perfectly. The stars help sometimes. Put things in perspective. They stood side by side, looking up at the night sky. I never see stars like this in the city, Bianca said softly. One of the things I missed most when I lived there, Caleb agreed. That and the silence. It's not really silent, though, Bianca observed. There's the crickets, the occasional cow, the wind in the trees. It's just a different kind of noise, peaceful. Caleb turned to look at her, his expression soft in the moonlight. You're not what I expected, Bianca Morales. Is that a good thing? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The best thing, he said simply. He reached out slowly, giving her time to move away if she wanted, but Bianca stayed perfectly still as his hand cupped her cheek. His touch was gentle, reverent, as if she was something precious. When his lips met hers, it felt like coming home, a place she'd never been but somehow recognized. The kiss was tender at first, then deepened as Bianca's arms wound around his neck, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Caleb rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that for days, he confessed. Why didn't you? She asked. Because you're leaving soon, because your life is in the city, because you're afraid I'll be like Rebecca, Bianca finished for him. Pain flashed in his eyes. Can you blame me? Bianca touched his face, tracing the line of his jaw. No, but I'm not her, Caleb. I know that, he said. You're so much more. They stayed on the porch for hours, talking and kissing under the stars. Caleb told her about his dreams for the farm, the expansion into organic vegetables, the educational programs he wanted to start for local kids. Bianca shared her hopes of becoming an editor, of helping new authors find their voices. Neither mentioned the fact that these dreams existed in different worlds. As dawn approached, painting the sky in pinks and golds, Caleb held her close. "Whatever happens," he whispered against her hair. "I'm glad you came to Hollow Creek, city girl." Bianca smiled against his chest. "Me too, farmer. Me too." But as the new day brightened, reality began to seep back in. In less than a week, Sophia would return. Bianca would go back to New York, to her job, to the life she'd always wanted, and Caleb would remain here, tending his farm, watching the same stars alone. The thought made her heart ache in a way she'd never experienced before. Because somewhere between feeding chickens and running from spiders, between milking cows and midnight conversations, Bianca Morales had done the one thing she never expected. She'd fallen in love with a farmer and his way of life, and now she had no idea what to do about it. The days following their first kiss took on a dreamlike quality. Bianca and Caleb worked side by side as always, but now their hands would find each other as they walked between pastures. Their eyes would meet across the dinner table, sharing secret smiles. At night, they would sit on the porch swing, talking, until the stars faded. For the first time in her life, Bianca understood what people meant when they talked about being swept away by feelings. She thought about Caleb constantly, his quiet strength, his rare but beautiful laughter, the gentleness in his hands despite their roughness. One afternoon, while they were harvesting vegetables from the garden, Bianca's phone rang. She wiped, her hands on her jeans before answering. "Bianca, it's Sophia." Her cousin sounded cheerful. "Good news. The doctor says I'm healing faster than expected. I can come back to the farm by the end of the week." Bianca's heart sank. "That's wonderful," she managed, catching Caleb's questioning look. "How are you feeling?" "Much better. Still on crutches, but I can get around. I can't wait to get back. I miss the place, and I bet you're counting the days until you can escape back to civilization." "Actually," Bianca began, not sure how to explain the dramatic change in her feelings. "Oh, I know you've been a trooper," Sophia continued, misunderstanding. "Caleb said you've been amazing in his texts, but we both know you belong in the city. With your books and lattes, not shoveling manure and chasing chickens." Bianca forced a laugh. "Right, well, I'm glad you're feeling better." After hanging up, she turned to Caleb. "That was Sophia. She's coming back at the end of the week." Something flickered in his eyes, the same realization that had hit Bianca. Their time together was coming to an end. "That's good news," he said, his tone neutral. "She's feeling better." "Yes." Bianca looked down at the tomato in her hand, suddenly, not seeing it. "Caleb, what are we doing?" He set down his basket and moved closer. "What do you mean?" "This." She gestured between them. "Us. I'm leaving in a few days, going back to New York, and you're staying here." Caleb took her hands in his, dirt and all. "I know. I've been trying not to think about it." "We need to talk about it," Bianca insisted. "What happens when I leave?" His eyes searched hers. "What do you want to happen?" The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Bianca's mind raced. What did she want? A week ago, the answer would have been simple. Return to her apartment, her job, her life in the city. But now? "I don't know," she admitted. "Everything's changed so quickly." Caleb nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We don't have to figure everything out today. Let's just enjoy the time we have." But the conversation cast a shadow over their remaining days together. Every moment now felt precious yet bittersweet, colored by the knowledge that it might be one of their last. The next day, Bianca checked her email during lunch and found a message from her boss that made her stomach flip. "Everything okay?" Caleb asked, noticing her expression. "My boss is asking when exactly I'll be back," she said. "There's a big publishing conference coming up, and she wants me to help prepare." She hesitated. She also mentioned that the senior editor position might be opening up sooner than expected. "The kind of promotion I've been working toward for years." Caleb's face remained carefully neutral. "That sounds like a great opportunity." "It is," Bianca agreed, though the excitement she would normally feel was strangely muted. "I should call her." She stepped outside to make the call, pacing the porch as she spoke with her boss, Linda. "We've missed you around here," Linda said. The office isn't the same without your energy." "I've missed everyone too," Bianca replied, though she realized with a start that she hadn't thought about her colleagues much at all during her time at the farm. "So you'll be back Monday? I have a stack of manuscripts with your name on them." "Yes, Monday," Bianca confirmed, feeling a hollowness in her chest as she made it official. "Oh, and before I forget," Linda added, "remember that prestigious publishing program you applied for, the one at Columbia?" Bianca's heart skipped. "The Advanced Editorial Fellowship, yes, of course. Well, I heard through the grapevine that selections are happening this week. And word is you're on the shortlist." Bianca gripped the porch railing. "Really? Wow." "It would be a huge step for your career," Linda continued. "Only 10 people get selected each year. It's practically a guarantee for an executive. Editor position afterward." After hanging up, Bianca remained on the porch staring out at the fields. The fellowship had been her dream for years, the most elite program in publishing, a fast track to the career she'd always wanted. She should be ecstatic at the news. Instead, she felt torn in two. When she went back inside, Caleb was washing, dishes, his back to her. She watched him for a moment, this man who had somehow become so important to her in such a short time. "Everything okay with work?" he asked without turning around. "Yes," she said. "They're expecting me Monday." He nodded, still focused on the dishes. "I figured." "There's something else," Bianca said, taking a deep breath. "I applied for this fellowship program months ago, before I came here. It's really competitive, only 10 spots each year. My boss says I might get in." Now Caleb turned, drying his hands on a towel. "That sounds important." "It is. It would mean a lot for my career." She hesitated. "But it would also mean committing to New York for at least another year, probably longer." The words hung between them, their implications clear. Caleb's expression gave nothing away, but Bianca saw his knuckles whiten as he gripped the towel. "You should take it," he said finally, "if that's what you want." "I don't know what I want anymore," Bianca admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Caleb crossed the kitchen to her, taking her hands in his. "Yes, you do. You've talked about becoming an editor since the day you got here. It's your dream." "Dreams can change," she said, looking up at him. His eyes softened. "Can they? Or do we just find new dreams to add to the old ones?" Before she could answer, his phone rang. He reluctantly released her hands to answer it. From his expression, Bianca could tell it was farm business, something requiring his immediate attention. "I have to go," he said after hanging up. "Feed delivery at the road. Truck can't make it up the drive because of the mud." "Go," she said. "We'll talk later." But later kept getting pushed back. A fence needed mending, then one of the goats got sick, requiring a late-night call to the vet. By the time they fell into bed that night, both were too exhausted for serious conversation. The next morning, Bianca woke to find Caleb already gone, a note on the kitchen table explaining he'd had to drive to the next county for a part to fix. The tractor. He'd be back by dinner. Alone at the farm for the first time, Bianca went about the morning chores, finding comfort in the routine she'd learned. She talked to the cows as she milked them, laughed as the chickens clustered around, her for feed, and even managed to coax Wilbur back into his pen when he made one of his escape attempts. "You're not making this any easier," she told the pig as he happily grunted at her. "I'm supposed to be preparing to leave, not falling more in love with this place." After finishing the chores, she wandered into Caleb's office, a small room off the kitchen that she'd rarely entered. Farm paperwork was stacked neatly on the desk, along with a calendar marked with planting schedules and delivery dates. Her eyes fell on a framed photograph. A younger Caleb standing beside an older man with the same kind eyes, both wearing matching grins as they held up a blue ribbon next to a prize cow. His grandfather, she guessed, feeling a pang that she would never meet the man who had shaped Caleb into the person he was. Beside the photo was a worn leather journal. Curious, Bianca opened it, recognizing Caleb's handwriting. It appeared to be a farm journal, with notes about crop yields, animal health, and weather patterns. But as she flipped through it, she found more personal entries as well. One from just a month ago caught her eye. Sophia broke her leg, says she's sending her city cousin to help out. Not sure how a publishing assistant is going to handle farm work, but I'm desperate enough to try anything at this point." Bianca smiled at his initial skepticism. She flipped forward a few pages and found an entry from her first week. "The city. Girl is a disaster with the animals, but she tries harder than anyone I've ever seen. Found her apologizing to a chicken today for scaring it. There's something about her that makes me want to smile. Haven't felt that way in a long time." Her heart fluttered at his words. She turned to the most recent entry, dated just 2 days ago. "I'm falling for her. It makes no sense. She belongs in New York, in publishing, in the world she loves. And I belong here, always have. But when she smiles, I can almost believe there's a way for both worlds to exist together. Grandpa always said the right person. Makes you better, makes you want to grow. She makes me want to grow." Tears welled in Bianca's eyes. She closed the journal, placing it exactly where she'd found it, and walked outside, needing air. The farm stretched before her. The fields, the barn, the pastures. In just 2 weeks, it had worked its way into her heart, becoming more than just a place she was helping out. But was it enough to change the course of her life? Could she really give up everything she'd worked for in New York? Her phone buzzed with an email notification. Opening it, she froze. It was from Columbia University. "Dear Ms. Morales, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the Advanced Editorial Fellowship Program." She sank onto the porch steps, reading and rereading the words. She'd gotten in. The most prestigious program in publishing. Her dream come true. So why did it feel like her heart was breaking? When Caleb returned that evening, he found Bianca sitting on the porch swing, her expression troubled. "Hey," he said softly, joining her. "Everything okay?" She handed him her phone, with the email still open. He read it silently, his face giving nothing away. "Congratulations," he said finally, handing the phone back. "This is what you wanted, right?" "It was," she said. "Before I came here. Before you." Caleb took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Bianca, I would never ask you to give up your dreams for me." "What if my dreams have changed?" she asked. He shook his head. 2 weeks isn't long enough to make that kind of decision. This fellowship, it's been your goal for years. You can't throw that away for a feeling. "It's more than a feeling," Bianca insisted. "What I feel for you, for this place, it's real." "I know it is," Caleb said, "but so is your life in New York, your career, your family." He took a deep breath. "I don't want you to wake up a year from now living here, resenting me because you gave up something important." "So what are you saying?" Bianca asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. "I'm saying you should take the fellowship," Caleb said, his voice rough with emotion. "Go back to your life. See if what you feel here is strong enough to last in the real world." "And us?" Caleb looked out at the fields, now golden in the setting sun. "I'll be here. The farm will be here." His eyes met hers. "If you decide this is what you want, really want, I'll be waiting." "That's not fair to you," Bianca protested. "Asking you to wait while I figure things out." "Life isn't always fair," he said with a sad smile. "But some things are worth waiting for." He pulled her close and she buried her face in his shoulder, inhaling his now familiar scent of earth and soap. For a moment, neither spoke, just holding each other as the sun dipped below the horizon. "I should start packing," Bianca said finally, pulling away. "Sophia will be here tomorrow." Caleb nodded, his eyes suspiciously bright. "I'll help you." They moved around her room in quiet efficiency, folding clothes and gathering toiletries. Bianca was struck by how few of her city things she'd actually used during her stay. The designer clothes remained folded in her suitcase, replaced by the practical jeans and flannel shirts she'd bought at the local store. "You can keep those," Caleb said, nodding at the farm clothes. "If you want." "I want," Bianca said, carefully placing them in her suitcase like treasures. That night, they sat together on the porch longer than usual, neither willing to end their last evening. They talked about everything and nothing, childhood memories, favorite books, dreams for the future, carefully avoiding any mention of their impending separation. When they finally went to their separate rooms, Bianca lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The thought of returning to her apartment, once her sanctuary, now felt strange. Would the city streets feel as welcoming after the open sky of the farm? Would her desk job satisfy after the tangible rewards of working with her hands? She must have dozed off eventually because she woke to the sound of a car in the driveway. Glancing at the clock, she saw it was just past 8, late by farm standards. Caleb had let her sleep in. Pulling on jeans and a t-shirt, she went to the window and saw Sophia carefully making her way up the porch steps on crutches, Caleb carrying her bags. Bianca took a deep breath. It was time to face reality. When she emerged from her room, Sophia's face lit up. "Bianca, look at you, all tanned and healthy. Farm life agrees with you." Bianca hugged her cousin carefully, mindful of her balance on the crutches. "You look good too. How's the leg?" Itchy inside this cast, but healing well. Sophia glanced between Bianca and Caleb, something knowing in her expression. "So, catch me up. How did City Girl do on the farm, Caleb?" Caleb's eyes met Bianca's for a brief moment. "She was a natural," he said quietly. "Better than anyone expected." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Really? The same girl who used to scream at spiders and thought milk came from cartons?" Bianca laughed, though it felt forced. "I still scream at spiders, but I've made peace with the cows. And the chickens and Wilbur, even Wilbur," Bianca confirmed, "though he's still an escape artist." The three of them had breakfast together, Sophia chattering about her recovery and asking questions about the farm. Bianca let Caleb do most of the answering, her heart growing heavier with each passing minute. After breakfast, Caleb excused himself to take care of the animals, leaving the cousins alone. "Okay, Spill," Sophia said the moment he was gone. "What's going on with you two?" Bianca sighed. "Is it that obvious?" "Honey, the way he looks at you, like you hung the moon and stars. And you're not much better." Sophia leaned forward. "So what happened?" Bianca told her everything. The initial awkwardness, the gradual connection, the kiss, and finally the fellowship offer. "Wow," Sophia said when she finished. "That's quite a 2 weeks." "What am I going to do?" Bianca asked. "I got the fellowship I've been dreaming of, but now you've got a new dream," Sophia finished for her, "or at least the possibility of one." "Exactly. And Caleb says I should take the fellowship, see if what I feel is real or just farm magic." Sophia considered this. He might be right. 2 weeks is a whirlwind, especially in a place like this. She gestured around them. The farm has its own kind of spell. It's easy to get caught up in it. "That's what I'm afraid of," Bianca admitted. "What if I'm just romanticizing all this? What if I give up everything for Caleb and then realize I've made a terrible mistake? Or what if you don't, and spend the rest of your life wondering what might have been?" Sophia countered. "There are no guarantees either way, Bianca. You just have to decide what risk you're willing to take." The sound of Caleb's truck pulling up cut their conversation short. Bianca glanced at the clock, realizing with a jolt that it was already noon. Time for her to leave if she wanted to reach the city before dark. "I should finish packing," she said, rising from the table. In her room, she gathered the last of her things, hands lingering on the bedspread that had become familiar, the curtains she'd opened each morning to greet the sunrise. How had this place become so much a part of her in such a short time? A knock at the door made her turn. Caleb stood there, his expression carefully controlled. "Your car's packed," he said, "except for that bag." "Thank you." Bianca picked up the last bag, then set it down again. "Caleb, I don't know if I can do this." In 2 strides, he was across the room, pulling her into his arms. She clung to him, memorizing the feel of him, the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. "You can," he said into her hair. "You're the strongest person I know, City Girl." "Come, with me," she blurted out. "Just for a visit. See my world like I've seen yours." Caleb pulled back slightly, surprise in his eyes. "To New York?" "Just for a weekend," Bianca pressed. "The farm would be okay for a couple of days, right? Sophia's here now." He hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, not right away. There's too much to do with the barn repairs. But soon, I promise." It wasn't a solution, but it was something. A bridge between their worlds, a way to keep the connection alive. The goodbye at the car was painful in its restraint. With Sophia watching from the porch, they kept it simple. A hug, a whispered, promise to call, a final lingering look. As Bianca drove down the gravel drive, she watched in the rearview mirror as Hollow Creek Farm grew smaller and smaller. Caleb remained standing in the yard until she could no longer see him. The highway stretched before her, leading back to New York, to her apartment, to the fellowship, to the life she'd always thought she wanted. But her heart remained behind, with a quiet farmer and his land, with cows that needed milking and chickens that needed feeding, with starry skies and sunrise chores, and Bianca Morales, city girl through and through, found herself already counting the days until she could return to the place and the man that had unexpectedly captured her heart. The moment Bianca stepped into her Manhattan apartment, the contrast hit her like a physical blow. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Her sleek furniture, her organized bookshelves, her collection of framed literary quotes on the wall. Yet somehow it all felt different, smaller, less important. She set her suitcase down and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. No stars, no open fields, no soft lowing of cows in the distance. No Caleb. Her phone buzzed with a text message. Made it home safe? His concern warmed her even from hundreds of miles away. Yes, she typed back. Strange to be back. Good strange or bad strange? Bianca hesitated. Just different, she finally replied. Miss the farm already, miss you. Miss you too, city girl, get some rest. She tried to settle back into her routine over the weekend, unpacking, doing laundry, preparing for her return to work. But ordinary. Tasks now carried echoes of the farm. The laundry detergent didn't smell like the sun-dried sheets at Hollow Creek. The food from the corner deli couldn't compare to fresh vegetables picked that morning. Monday morning she dressed in her favorite work outfit, a stylish blouse, tailored pants and heels that clicked satisfyingly on hard floors. The woman in the mirror looked polished, professional, ready to conquer the publishing world. But her eyes held a new awareness, as if she were seeing herself from a distance. The moment she walked into the office, she was surrounded by colleagues. Bianca, you're back. How was playing farmer? Did you actually milk a cow? She laughed and fielded their questions, surprised by how defensive she felt when someone joked about backward country living. These were her friends, her people. When had she started feeling like an outsider among them? Linda, her boss, pulled her into a private meeting mid-morning. You look different, Linda observed, studying her. Healthy, relaxed. Farm life agreed with me, Bianca admitted. Well, I hope you got it out of your system because we need you focused now. Linda handed her a thick folder. The fellowship starts in 2 weeks. Until then, I need you to help. Prepare for the publishing conference. Everything's in here. Bianca took the folder, feeling its weight. Of course. And congratulations again on the fellowship. This is going to change your career trajectory completely. Thank you, Bianca said automatically, though the excitement she'd expected to feel remained strangely muted. The days that followed fell into a familiar pattern. Meetings, manuscripts, marketing plans. The publishing conference loomed, consuming everyone's attention. Bianca worked late most nights, falling exhausted into bed, then rising early to do it all again. She and Caleb texted daily and called when they could, though their schedules rarely aligned. His days started before dawn. Hers often ended close to midnight. Their conversations were brief but precious. Updates on the farm, the weather, the animals, her work. Wilbur escaped again, he told her one night. Sophia swears he misses you. Just, Wilbur? She teased. Everyone misses you, Caleb said, his voice softer. Especially me. 2 weeks after her return, Bianca received an email confirming the start date for her fellowship. She stared at the screen, feeling the weight of the opportunity. 10 people selected from hundreds of applicants. A direct path to the career she'd always wanted. So why did it feel more like a chain than a lifeline? That same evening, Caleb called with news of his own. The barn repairs are finished, he said, and Sophia can handle things here for a few days. How would next weekend work for that visit we talked about? Bianca's heart leapt. Next weekend would be perfect. The fellowship doesn't start until the following Monday. Then I'll be there Friday afternoon. Just tell me where to park a truck in that city of yours. She laughed. Maybe leave the truck at home. The subway is easier. They made plans for his visit, Bianca mentally listing all the places she wanted to show him. the restaurants he might enjoy, the small glimpses of city life that might help him understand her world. The week crawled by. Bianca found herself checking the clock constantly, willing the days to pass faster. Her colleagues noticed her distraction. "Earth to Bianca," teased Mark, one of the junior editors, waving a hand in front of her face during a meeting. "You've been a million miles away since you got back. Or should I say a million acres?" "Sorry," Bianca said, refocusing on the marketing strategy they were discussing. "Just a lot on my mind, with the fellowship starting soon." But it wasn't the fellowship occupying her thoughts. It was the image of Caleb in her apartment, Caleb walking beside her on city streets, Caleb seeing the life she'd built, and whether there could possibly be room in it for him. Friday finally arrived. Bianca left work early, ignoring the raised eyebrows from colleagues who were used to her being the last to leave. She rushed home to tidy her already clean apartment, then changed outfits 3 times before settling on simple jeans and a nice blouse, a compromise between city style and the casual comfort she'd grown accustomed to at the farm. At precisely 4 o'clock, her doorbell rang. Heart pounding, she opened the door. Caleb stood there in jeans and a button-down shirt, looking both familiar and strange in the hallway of her apartment building. His hair was neatly combed, his face freshly shaved, but his eyes, those were exactly the same, lighting up at the sight of her. "Hi," she said, suddenly shy. "Hi yourself, city girl," he replied. And then she was in his arms, the embrace washing away the weeks of separation. Inside her apartment, Caleb looked around with interest. "So this is your world?" "Part of it," Bianca said, watching him take. In her space, the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the view of the city, the sleek modern furniture. "It suits you," he said finally. "Organized, elegant." He picked up a framed photo of her at a publishing award ceremony. "Successful." There was no judgment in his voice, just observation. Yet Bianca found herself wondering if he was seeing what was missing, the warmth, the life, the connection to something real that she'd found at Hollow Creek. That evening, she took him to her favorite restaurant, a small Italian place tucked away on a side street. Over pasta and wine, they caught up on everything that texts and brief phone calls hadn't covered. Caleb told her about the new calves, the progress on the vegetable garden, the neighbor's dog that had taken to visiting daily. And Rebecca stopped. "Buy again," he mentioned casually, twirling pasta on his fork. Bianca's hand froze midway to her glass. "Oh?" She wanted to talk about selling her parents' farm. "They're moving to Florida." "And did you help her?" Bianca tried to keep her tone neutral. Caleb's eyes met hers, a hint of amusement in them. "I gave her the name of a good real estate agent." His hand reached across the table to cover hers. "That's all, Bianca. There's only one woman on my mind these days." The weekend passed in a blur of showing Caleb her favorite parts of New York. They walked through Central Park, visited a museum, browsed her favorite bookstore. Bianca kept waiting for him to seem overwhelmed by the city, to show signs of discomfort or dislike. But Caleb took it all in stride, asking thoughtful questions, observing with interest. "You seem surprisingly comfortable here," she commented as they sat on a bench in Washington Square Park, watching street performers. "I did live in the city for a while," he reminded her. "After college, before I took over the farm. I wasn't always just a farmer." "I know. I guess I expected you to hate it." Caleb considered this. "It's not about hating or loving a place. It's about where you feel most yourself." He looked at her. "Where do you feel most yourself, Bianca?" The question caught her off guard. 2 months ago, she would have answered without hesitation. New York, her apartment, the publishing house. But now? "I'm not sure anymore," she admitted. Sunday evening came too quickly. They sat on Bianca's small balcony, sharing takeout Chinese food and watching the city lights come on as dusk fell. "I start the fellowship next week," Bianca said, setting down her chopsticks. "It's a year-long program." Caleb nodded. "I know. And you'll be at the farm." "I will." The distance between them felt suddenly vast, not just in miles but in lifestyles, in daily rhythms, in the very fabric of their existence. "Long distance is hard," Bianca said. voicing the fear that had been growing all weekend. People say they'll make it work, but then life gets in the way. Schedules conflict, priorities change, resentment builds. Is that what you think will happen to us? Caleb asked quietly. I don't know. I just know I've never felt this way about anyone before, and the thought of losing you because of distance terrifies me. Caleb set his food aside and took her hands. Then we don't let it. We make plans, real ones. I can come to the city one weekend a month. You can come to the farm when you can. We call, we text, we stay connected. For how long? A year? 2? What's the end game, Caleb? His eyes held hers, steadily. The end game is us finding a way to be together that doesn't require either of us to give up who we are. Is that possible? I don't know, he admitted, but I know you're worth the effort to find out. The next morning, Bianca saw Caleb off at the train station, their goodbye a mixture of sadness and determination. He would be back in a month. She would try to visit the farm before then. They would make this work. But as she watched his train pull away, doubt crept in. Could two people from such different worlds really find a way to build a life together? The fellowship began, consuming Bianca's days with workshops, seminars, networking events, and challenging projects. She was paired with a mentor, Diana Wells, one of the most respected editors in the industry, and thrown into the deep end of high-level publishing. It was everything she'd dreamed of. Stimulating, demanding, filled with opportunities to learn and grow. She met authors she'd admired for years, gained insights into the business side of publishing, and began to see a clear path to her future as an editor. Yet in quiet moments, her mind drifted to Hollow Creek, to open skies and honest work. To Caleb, they kept their promise to stay connected, talking daily, planning visits. Caleb came to the city once a month as promised. Bianca made it to the farm twice, cherishing the brief escapes from urban intensity, but the strain began to show. Scheduling conflicts arose. Caleb couldn't leave the farm during planting season. Bianca had fellowship commitments on weekends. Their calls grew shorter as exhaustion took its toll. 3 months into the fellowship, Bianca sat in Diana's office for their weekly mentoring session. You seem distracted lately, Diana observed, her keen eyes missing nothing. Everything okay? Just tired, Bianca said. The Wilson manuscript needed a lot of work. Diana studied her for a moment. It's more than that. You're doing excellent work, Bianca, but something's holding you back from fully committing. Bianca opened her mouth to deny it, then stopped. Diana deserved honesty. I'm in a relationship with someone who lives far from the city, on a farm actually. Understanding dawned in Diana's eyes. Ah, the heart divided. Something like that. Diana leaned back in her chair. You know, before I was Diana Wells, publishing powerhouse, I was Diana Mercer, small-town girl from Nebraska. I fell in love with New York and publishing, but I also fell in love with a man who could never imagine leaving our hometown. Bianca straightened, suddenly alert. What happened? I chose New York, built the career I have now. Diana's expression turned reflective. It was the right choice for me, but I won't pretend it came without cost. Do you regret it? Not regret, exactly, but I do wonder sometimes about the road not taken. Diana focused on Bianca again. The question isn't which choice has no cost. Both will cost you something. The question is which cost you can live with. The conversation stayed with Bianca for days, echoing in her mind as she edited manuscripts, attended meetings, and tried to envision her future. Which cost could she live with? The question became more urgent when Caleb called with unexpected news. I've been offered a chance to expand, he told her, excitement evident in his voice. The Thompson property next door is for sale. If I buy it, I could double the organic vegetable production, maybe even start that educational program I've talked about. Caleb, that's wonderful. It would mean taking on more debt, he cautioned, and definitely being tied to the farm for the long haul. But it feels right, Bianca. It feels like the future I've been working toward. The future he'd been working toward. A future rooted in Hollow Creek, in the land, in a life she'd only briefly sampled. You should do it, she said, meaning it despite the ache in her chest. It's perfect for you. "I wanted to talk to you first," he said, "because it affects us, our plans." The fact that he considered her in such a major decision touched her deeply. "When do you need to decide?" "Soon, within the month." A month. The same time frame in which she needed to commit to the second phase of the fellowship, the part that would place her with a major publishing house for intensive training. "We need to talk about this in person," she said, "not over the phone." "I agree, but I can't leave right now, not with this deal in the works." "Then I'll come there," Bianca decided. This weekend. Her supervisor at the fellowship was understanding when Bianca requested Friday off for a personal emergency. Thursday night, she packed a small bag and caught the last train out of the city, texting Caleb that she was on her way. It was past midnight when the taxi dropped her at Hollow Creek. The farmhouse was dark, except for a single light in the kitchen. Caleb opened the door before she could knock, gathering her into his arms without a word. They sat at the kitchen table, mugs of tea between them, the silence of the sleeping farm surrounding them. "I've missed this place," Bianca admitted, looking around the familiar kitchen. "More than I expected to." "It's missed you too," Caleb said softly. They talked until dawn, about the farm expansion, about her fellowship, about the growing difficulty of maintaining their relationship across the distance. As the first light of day crept through the windows, they faced the truth they'd both been avoiding. "We're at a crossroads," Caleb said, "both with opportunities that could shape our futures, opportunities that pull us in different directions." Bianca nodded, tears threatening. "I don't want to lose you, but I don't see how this works long-term, Caleb. You can't leave the farm. I understand that now, and my career is in New York." "So where does that leave us?" The pain in his eyes matched her own. "I don't know," she whispered. They spent the day together, walking the property, visiting the animals, discussing the expansion, plans. Caleb showed her the adjoining land, his eyes lighting up as he described his vision for its future. "You love this place so much," Bianca observed. "It's part of you." "It is," he agreed. "But so are you now." That evening, they sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. The beauty of it caught Bianca's breath. "You don't see sunsets like this in the city," she murmured. "No," Caleb agreed. "But the city has its own kind of beauty." She looked at him, surprised. "You think so?" "I do. I'm not blind to what the city offers, Bianca. The energy, the opportunities, the constant stimulation. I see why you love it." His understanding only made her heart tack more. If he had hated New York, if he had been close-minded about her world, perhaps the choice would be easier. "I need to walk," she said suddenly, standing. "Clear my head." "Want company?" "If you don't mind, I think I need a few minutes alone." Caleb nodded, understanding as always. "Take all the time you need." Bianca walked down the familiar path toward the pasture, the evening air cool against her skin. Fireflies had begun to emerge, their tiny lights blinking in the growing darkness. She thought about the past months, the fellowship, the networking events, the manuscripts, the constant buzz of the city. She'd been doing exactly what she'd always wanted, surrounded by books and ideas and creative people. Yet something had been missing, a groundedness, a connection to something real and lasting. The satisfaction of seeing immediate results from her work, like a newly planted field or a healthy animal. Diana's words came back to her. The question is, which cost you can live with? Giving up the fellowship, the career trajectory she'd planned, that would cost her. But so would giving up Caleb, this farm, the life she'd unexpectedly fallen in love with. Which could she live without? As if in answer, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A new email from Diana. "Exciting news. Harper & Row is interested in bringing you on for the second phase. Need your commitment by Monday." Bianca stared at the screen, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Harper & Row, one of the most prestigious publishing houses in the world. The opportunity of a lifetime. She looked up at the star-filled sky, so vast and clear above the farm. Then back at the farmhouse, where Caleb waited patiently, giving her the space she needed, and suddenly, with a clarity that took her breath away, Bianca knew. She walked back to the house slowly, her decision settling into certainty with each step. Caleb was still on the porch, his face lighting up at her return. "Feel better?" he asked as she sat beside him. "I do," she said, "because I know what I want now." Caleb waited, his eyes searching hers. "I want this," Bianca said simply. "You, the farm, this life." Surprise flickered across his face. "Bianca, I would never ask you to give up your career. You're not asking. I'm choosing." She took his hands in hers. "I've spent 3 months in my dream fellowship doing exactly what I always thought I wanted. And it's been rewarding, challenging, everything it should be. But it doesn't make me happy the way this place does, the way you do." She squeezed his hands. "I can be an editor anywhere. I can work remotely, freelance, start my own small press focusing on rural stories. There are options." "Are you sure?" Caleb's voice was hoarse with emotion. "This is a big decision, Bianca. I don't want you to regret it." "I've thought about this more than you know," she assured him. "What Diana, my mentor, said to me was that both choices come with a cost. The question is which cost I can live with." She looked into his eyes. "I can't live without this. Without you." Caleb pulled her close, his arms strong around her. "I love you, city girl. Have since you screamed at that chicken your first day here." Bianca laughed through sudden tears. "I love you too, farmer, even though you let a pig chase me." "So what happens now?" he asked, his forehead resting against hers. "Now I go back to New York, finish out my current fellowship commitments, and start making plans for a more rural future." She smiled. "And you buy that land and start building our future here." "Our future," Caleb repeated, wonder in his voice. "I like the sound of that." The next morning, Sophia arrived for coffee, surprised to find Bianca at the kitchen table. "Well, well," she said, eyebrows raised. "Look who's back." "For good, eventually," Bianca told her, explaining her decision. Sophia studied her cousin's face. "You're serious. You're giving up New York for Hollow Creek." "I'm not giving up anything," Bianca corrected. "I'm gaining something better." Understanding dawned in Sophia's eyes. "You know, when I asked you to fill in for me, I never imagined it would change your life." "Neither did I," Bianca admitted. "But sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them." Later that day, as Caleb drove her to the train station for her return to New York, Bianca looked out at the passing farmland, her heart full. "It won't be easy," she said. "The transition, finding work I can do from here, adjusting to country life full-time." "We'll figure it out together," Caleb promised, reaching for her hand. "One day at a time." At the station, their goodbye was different from before, tinged with anticipation rather than sadness. This separation was temporary, a stepping stone to their shared future. "I'll be back in 2 weeks," Bianca promised, "to help look at the Thompson property." "And I'll call every day," Caleb said, kissing her one last time before she boarded the train. As the train pulled away, Bianca watched Hollow Creek recede into the distance, but this time her heart didn't ache with the separation, because she knew now where she belonged, not in the city she'd always loved, with its bright lights and busy streets, not in the publishing world she'd worked so hard to join, but on a small country farm with chickens and goats and one mischievous pig, with open skies and honest work and quiet evenings on the porch, with a man who had seen past her city veneer to the person she truly was, and loved her anyway. 6 months later, Bianca stood in the newly expanded vegetable garden of Hollow Creek Farm, clipboard in hand, as she checked inventory for their first farmer's market of the season. The spring sun warmed her face as she counted tomato seedlings and made notes about the lettuce crop. "How's it looking?" Caleb asked, coming up behind her and slipping his arms around her waist. "On track," she replied, leaning back against him. "The heirloom varieties should be ready just in time for the gourmet restaurant orders." "And how's the other project coming along?" Bianca smiled, knowing he meant her freelance editing business, which was slowly but steadily growing. "Just got another manuscript from a local author, a memoir about 3 generations of family farming. Sounds perfect for you," Caleb said, dropping a kiss on her neck. "It is. Everything is." She turned in his arms to face him. "I don't regret it, you know. Not for a second." "What's that?" "Choosing this life." choosing you." Caleb's eyes crinkled with his smile. "Even when Wilbur got into your office and knocked over all your manuscript piles," Bianca laughed. "Even then, though I still think he did it on purpose, he probably did. He's jealous of anything that takes your attention away from him." "Well, he's going to have to learn to share," Bianca said, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "Especially come winter." Caleb's brow furrowed in confusion, then cleared as understanding dawned. "Bianca, are you saying—" She nodded, joy bubbling up inside her. "I was going to tell you tonight, but yes, we're having a baby." The look of pure happiness that spread across Caleb's face was everything she'd hoped for. He lifted her off her feet, spinning her around right there in the garden. "Careful," she laughed. "The seedlings—" "They'll understand," he said, setting her down gently but keeping her close. "I love you, city girl, more than I ever thought possible." "I love you too, farmer," she replied. "Thank you for showing me where I really belong." As the sun began to set over Hollow Creek Farm, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Bianca thought about the strange, wonderful journey that had brought her here. From reluctant farm helper to farm owner's wife, from city editor to rural entrepreneur, from someone who screamed at chickens to someone who could milk a cow with her eyes closed. Life had a funny way of leading you exactly where you needed to be, even when it was the last place you ever expected to find yourself. And sometimes the greatest adventures began with a loose pig, a chicken pecking at your suitcase, and a quiet farmer with a guarded heart who looked at you and said, "You might not know how to handle animals yet, but somehow you've already tamed my heart."